The International Monetary Fund, or IMF, was established in 1944 during the Bretton Woods Conference in New Hampshire, USA. 44 countries came together to draft the IMF's Articles of Agreement. The IMF formally began operations on December 27, 1945. Its primary mandate was to ensure exchange rate stability and provide resources to member countries facing balance of payments problems. The IMF aimed to promote international monetary cooperation and facilitate the expansion of trade and economic growth. The organization's founders believed that economic stability was necessary for global peace. The IMF's initial funds came from contributions by member countries based on a quota system. Over time, the IMF's role and functions have evolved. Initially, it focused on exchange rate policies and balance of payments support. Today, it addresses a broad range of economic issues, from financial crises to poverty reduction. In its early years, the IMF played a critical role in post-war reconstruction. European countries in particular benefited from IMF assistance. This support was vital in rebuilding their economies and preventing financial collapse. The IMF provided financial assistance to countries under the Marshall Plan. The IMF helped stabilize exchange rates and restore confidence in European currencies. During the 1950s and 60s, the IMF continued to support global economic stability. It provided short-term financial assistance to countries facing balance of payments difficulties. The IMF also worked with developing countries, providing technical assistance and financial resources. The IMF's early successes laid the groundwork for its future role. Its ability to provide financial stability and support economic growth made it a key player in the global economic system. The 1980s presented new challenges for the IMF, as many developing countries faced severe debt crises. These crises were triggered by rising oil prices and global recession. The IMF stepped in to provide financial assistance and help countries manage their debt. Mexico was one of the first countries to face a debt crisis in the early 1980s. The IMF provided a loan to stabilize its economy, beginning a series of interventions in Latin America. The IMF's role was to negotiate restructuring agreements with creditors and provide financial support. Its programs often included conditions requiring countries to implement economic reforms. Despite criticisms, the IMF's efforts helped prevent a complete collapse of the global financial system. The 1980s debt crisis underscored the importance of addressing the root causes of economic instability. These lessons would shape the IMF's future interventions. One of the IMF's notable successes was in Mexico during the 1990s financial crisis. The crisis was triggered by a sudden devaluation of the peso and massive capital flight. The IMF stepped in with a substantial loan package to stabilize the economy. The IMF's intervention included a $17.8 billion loan as part of a larger $50 billion international rescue package. The funds were used to stabilize the peso and restore confidence in the Mexican economy. The IMF also required Mexico to implement economic reforms, including measures to reduce the fiscal deficit and improve the banking system. By 1996, Mexico's economy was recovering and growth had resumed. The success in Mexico demonstrated the IMF's ability to respond to financial crises effectively. However, the IMF's involvement was not without criticism, with some arguing that the conditions attached to the loans were too stringent. These debates continue to shape discussions about the IMF's role. The Asian financial crisis of 1997 to 1998 was another significant challenge for the IMF, with South Korea being one of the hardest-hit countries. The crisis was characterized by massive capital outflows, currency devaluation, and a severe recession. The IMF stepped in with a substantial loan package to stabilize the economy. The IMF provided a $57 billion loan to South Korea as part of a larger international rescue effort. The funds were used to stabilize the won and support the banking system. The IMF also required South Korea to implement economic reforms, including measures to restructure the financial sector and improve corporate governance. By 1999, South Korea's economy was recovering and growth had resumed. The success in South Korea demonstrated the IMF's ability to respond to financial crises effectively. However, the IMF's involvement was not without criticism, with some arguing that the conditions attached to the loans were too stringent. These debates continue to shape discussions about the IMF's role. The global financial crisis of 2008 to 2009 had severe repercussions for many countries, with Greece being one of the hardest hit. The country faced a severe debt crisis, leading to a bailout by the IMF and European Union. The IMF provided financial assistance but with strict austerity measures as conditions. The conditions included deep spending cuts and tax increases aimed at reducing Greece's budget deficit and restoring economic stability. The austerity measures led to significant economic and social hardships, with unemployment soaring and public services being cut. Many Greeks protested against the measures, arguing that they were too harsh and counterproductive. Despite the controversy, the IMF believed that the measures were necessary to restore stability. However, the experience in Greece highlighted the limitations of austerity policies. Critics argued that the focus on fiscal consolidation overlooked the need for growth and social stability. The Greek crisis was a learning experience for the IMF, underscoring the importance of balancing fiscal discipline with growth and social stability. In the 1990s, the IMF supported a wave of privatization in Latin America to improve economic efficiency and reduce public sector deficits. Countries like Argentina and Brazil implemented widespread privatization programs as part of IMF-supported reforms. The privatizations included the sale of state-owned enterprises in sectors like telecommunications, energy, and transportation. The IMF believed that privatization would lead to more efficient and competitive economies. While some privatizations were successful, others faced significant challenges, including job losses and social unrest. There were also concerns about transparency and corruption in the privatization process. Critics argued that the IMF's push for privatization overlooked the social and economic costs. The experience in Latin America highlighted the complexities of privatization. The IMF has since recognized the need for a more balanced approach, considering both economic and social impacts. The lessons learned have shaped the IMF's approach to structural reforms in other regions. The COVID-19 pandemic presented unprecedented challenges for the global economy. The IMF responded swiftly to support member countries, providing financial assistance and policy advice. The IMF launched programs like the Rapid Credit Facility and the Rapid Financing Instrument to provide quick and flexible assistance. The IMF also increased its lending capacity to meet the surge in demand. In addition to financial support, the IMF provided policy advice on fiscal policies, social protection measures, and health spending. The IMF emphasized the importance of international cooperation and solidarity in addressing the global crisis. The IMF's response to COVID-19 demonstrated its ability to adapt to new challenges. The pandemic highlighted the need for continued investment in global health and social protection systems. The COVID-19 response has been a significant test for the IMF, underscoring the importance of global cooperation. The experience will shape the IMF's approach to future crises and reinforce the importance of resilience and preparedness. The IMF now focuses on climate change, recognizing its economic risks. It integrates climate considerations, offering financial support and policy advice. Initiatives like the Resilience and Sustainability Trust support climate resilience. The IMF helps countries integrate climate risks into economic planning. It also provides technical assistance on green finance and carbon pricing. Collaborating globally, the IMF promotes climate action. Addressing climate risks supports sustainable and inclusive growth. The governance structure of the IMF has been debated for years. The IMF operates on a quota system determining voting power. Concerns exist about the dominance of advanced economies. Emerging economies like China and India seek greater representation. The IMF has made efforts to address these concerns. However, progress is slow and more needs to be done. Governance reform is critical for the IMF's legitimacy. The IMF faces several challenges as it looks to the future. The global economic landscape is changing rapidly. The IMF must adapt to remain relevant and effective. Addressing climate change is a key challenge. The IMF must integrate climate considerations into its work. Governance reform is crucial for fair representation. The IMF can promote economic stability and development by adapting and supporting global cooperation. The IMF is at a crossroads. As the world faces unprecedented challenges, the IMF's role in shaping the global economic landscape remains crucial. Whether it evolves to meet the needs of all nations or remains a tool for the powerful few is a question that will shape our collective future. Stay informed, stay engaged, and let your voice be heard in the global conversation about the IMF. Smash the subscribe button to explore more resources and join the debate on the IMF's future.